Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show. First of all, a massive apology that we weren't here to cover the Brighton game. I hope you guys saw the post on social media and on the YouTube channel as well. It's a massive turnaround, well, very short turnaround between Brighton and Newcastle. So of course, all focuses on that, but we are here to talk about both games because I think there's 5 things that we've learnt from both games that I think you saw in both. Some things you saw in just one or the other. Some topics are just sort of topics that were relevant in both games, and I want to discuss that a little bit. It is just me today. Unfortunately, Graham couldn't make it, so massive apologies for that. He hates that he's not here. He'd love to be here to discuss it all, and as always, he sent some fantastic insight as well to me, so we'll be breaking that down a little bit in this today. But let's talk about it. We won at Brighton 4-2. We drew 0-0 with Newcastle. Fantastic result against Brighton. Disappointing not to get the win at home against Newcastle, but I think there are things that we can, and there are real positives we can take. We'll explore that in a little second. But let's go through the 5 things, starting with Arsenal's, I think, new counter-attacking threat. I think our improvement in transition. And I do think we've seen this against Brighton, as well as we've seen it against Newcastle, and in different ways. Let me explain, starting with Brighton. Now, I've got the players here in position for the 4th goal. The 4th goal that ultimately wins us the game. Martinelli scores it. At this point, Brighton were getting back into it a little bit more. They're starting to get on the front foot. Tomiyasu had come off for Ben White, Zinchenko come off for Tierney, and it felt like we lost a little bit of control because of that, and there was Brighton to try and exploit that. Now, what we've got here is, Brighton have had a little move, it's come to the left, Tierney and Xhaka have dealt with it, and it's coming into Odegaard. Now, one of the things I think Arsenal have improved on massively is our ability to counter-attack. I hate mentioning these clubs, and I hate giving them praise, but I think if there's one thing that clubs like Tottenham and Man United have actually done quite well in the last, really in the years, they've not really been all that. They've not been competitive with the likes of Liverpool and Man City, but they've been able to actually get results and cause them trouble. It's because they've always had real threats on the counter-attack. They've been able to go from one end to the other very quickly. The likes of Heung-min Son, Kulusevski, Marcus Rashford, for example, have given these clubs that outlet. Arsenal, I don't think, have been very good at that. I think under Arteta, it's been more about possession, it's been more about controlling games, passing teams to death when we're trying to, control and see out games, but also, being parked in the opposition's third, trying to find openings. But Arsenal need to be able to go from one end of the pitch to the other. They need to be able to, kill teams when the game opens up. And I think we saw that, for example, in the Liverpool game. The first minute, it hadn't really settled. We get that goal really, really early, like we did against Brighton, by the way, the other day. And, it's that Odegaard incisive pass to Martinelli. No team's really settled, and we've gone and got the goal really, really early. Now, this isn't an early goal, but it's a counter-attacking goal. And I think what you see here, if we just try and highlight their positions, what you see is Bukayo Saka and Martinelli hugging the touchline. Now, not hugging the touchline, but they're very wide. Martinelli certainly hugging the touchline. But they're playing on the 2 Brighton fullbacks, ready to attack this massive space that's left in behind. Now, this Odegaard pass is absolutely sublime. It's absolutely brilliant. Nothing I'm going to draw on the tactical pad is going to illustrate how good that pass was from Martin Odegaard. But that pass isn't on if Martinelli's not ready to make the run. And I think that's a crucial thing that creators like Odegaard, who have that kind of vision, who have that kind of execution of pass, they need that run to be there. They need that movement to be there. And Martinelli and Saka, but mainly Martinelli because obviously he gets the goal, is absolutely superb in this, and his position is crucial. You could have Saka all the way back here, Martinelli all the way back here, trying to do their defensive job, trying not to overcommit to the attack, but they're sensing an opportunity to attack the space in behind. So what you get is this. Xhaka plays it into Odegaard, and they make those darting runs in beyond, and they're through on goal. I think this is something that Arsenal have added this season. I think Arsenal have been far more direct. That out-to-in run from Martinelli, Saka, much, much better this season. But if you also look at the first 10-15 minutes against Newcastle, those are the minutes in the game I thought we looked more likely to score. Before Newcastle had fully settled, there was a lot of exchanging possession, there was a lot of transitions, and when the game opened up, a couple passes, Arsenal have been quite risky in terms of passing it into areas where it was condensed, but trusting Nketiah, Odegaard, Xhaka to come out with the ball. A couple passes later and we're running at their back 4. A couple times Saka had real joy running at their fullback or running inside. Martinelli and Nketiah were finding a little bit of space, as was Xhaka. And I felt in transition, that's when we looked at our absolute best against Newcastle in those first 15 minutes. Once they settled, it was about can we break them down. But I think Arsenal have really, really improved in the way that they start games, but also in the way that they're ready to attack even when they're defending. And I think that's a massive part that Arsenal have improved on hugely. And I think we've seen it in these last 2 games. Now, I think the second thing we've learned is how important Alexander Zinchenko is to this team. And that's not to say that Kieran Tierney's not a fantastic player, that he doesn't offer us a lot. He absolutely does. But Zinchenko's crucial, and I think we've got a couple of things here that illustrate why. First and foremost, why Xhaka highlighted? Ignore that for now. That's for a little bit later. Let's talk about this Arsenal setup. Now, what we've seen, and again, I won't bore you guys too much with it, but what we've seen is Xhaka getting forward and Zinchenko coming inside alongside Thomas Partey. As we know, that all stretches wide, Odegaard comes forward, and there you go. You've got your base two of Zinchenko and Partey. Zinchenko is absolutely crucial. What he does is he comes inside, he helps control, he has two lanes for White, Saliba and Gabriel to pass through, comes into Partey, comes into Zinchenko, they're the distributors. It's like playing with two holding midfielders and two 10s at the same time. And it's a massive part of the way Arsenal approach games. When Zinchenko's in the team, he's done this very, very often. The time I noticed it the most was at Stamford Bridge, was when we went to Chelsea. We completely controlled that game. We were playing through their midfield, and Zinchenko was a huge part of why we were able to execute that so well. Now, I felt that against Brighton, when we took him off, we lost control of the game. We were far more susceptible to them playing through us. We weren't able to just kill them with 1,000 passes as we've done in other games. And I think that is something that I think Arteta maybe learned from a little bit in the Newcastle game. He didn't bring Zinchenko off. He felt he needed to keep him on there to try and maintain a degree of control in the game. And yeah, Newcastle had their moments, but Zinchenko was crucial again the other day against Newcastle. But first of all, let's talk about with and without Zinchenko against Brighton and compare some of the stats. He came off in the 60th minute. From minute 0 to 60, Brighton only had 4 shots in the game, Arsenal's 13. Brighton had 2 shots on target, Arsenal had 6, Brighton created 2 chances to Arsenal's 7, Brighton had 69 passes in the attacking third to Arsenal's 82. Now let's have a little look at what happened in the last half hour. Brighton had more shots than the 4 they managed in the whole hour before. Arsenal only had the 1 shot in that final half hour. They had 3 shots on target, more than they had before. Arsenal with 1 on target. Brighton created 4 chances to the 2 they created before. Arsenal's chance creation went down to just 1. 64 attacking third passes compared to the 69. That's nearly as many in half an hour as they had in the whole hour before that, Brighton. And Arsenal's attacking third passes all the way down to 18 compared to the 82 they had before. You can see the massive difference in the way Arsenal's last half hour compared to the first hour. Now, this could be a lot of things, perhaps nerves, and I want to explore that in a little bit as well. But I think it really highlights how important Zinchenko is. And if that doesn't, maybe this does. Let's have a little look at Zinchenko's pass map against Newcastle. Now, the blue is every completed pass, the red is every pass he lost, but in yellow, I've just highlighted some of those blue passes, completed passes, that he played. I mean, look where he's picking up the ball from. Do you know what, let's try and highlight this. Here we go. Let's do it in red. No, we'll do it in white. Just look at some of the areas that he is playing these passes from. Oh, there we go. A little bit better there. Really, really central positions where these passes are starting. And look how much ground he's covering. He's literally taking us from 1/3 into the final third. How often he's having an impact into finding those central areas, which can be really, really difficult for teams to defend against. You know, do you engage? Do you drop back? The amount of times he was able to find Xhaka and Xhaka was running a goal. He's really, really crucial to this part of the game, Zinchenko, because of the positions he picks up, because of intelligence of pass and his pass selection, but also his execution. I mean, the amount of times he thought, oh, I think Newcastle are about to nick this back. But actually, he just got it right and was able to slip it through the lines and get Arsenal attacking at their back four. When a team is as good and organised and condensed as Newcastle were, you need a player like Zinchenko that's able to pull that off. I think he's absolutely crucial. And where did we see this importance? We saw it in the Saka goal against Brighton. Now what we've got here is, again, that central three of White, Partey and Zinchenko. They're sort of there ready to sweep up anything Arsenal, lose on the counter-attack to Brighton. But there is Partey to win it. We'll show it here. There's Partey who wins it. Zinchenko then plays the pass to Martinelli. A couple shots later, we score and we're 1-0 up after a minute. Zinchenko's distribution from this area of the pitch is massive. I think he's crucial for Arsenal. And look, I think we could have needed other options in the game against Newcastle for sure. And we could have used Zinchenko, maybe trying different things as well. But largely, his pass creation, what he does in central midfield, is massive. So what did I mean just there when I said that we could have used something different from Zinchenko? Well, let's explore that. I said earlier that Granit Xhaka is highlighted. Why? Because he was on a yellow card. I think that's an important thing to mention in a second. And I'll explain why. Also in this game, okay, White comes off Tomiyasu, otherwise no changes. This is the team that's expected to go out and get the win. No subs were really depended on. Tomiyasu comes in, plays at right centre-back really as we transfer to a back three to try to see the game out. And I can understand that at this point White wasn't overlapping or attacking. He was very much trusting, Saka, Martinelli, those players to get the job done. I think that also tells you the lack of White overlap, that maybe Arteta was sort of happy to not lose it as much as he was to try and win it, and you can understand that to a degree. Every point is crucial when you're facing a club like Manchester City for the title. Now, with this, okay, substitutions has become... they've been a topic for a lot of fan bases, really. I think Liverpool fans were saying, why can't Fabio Carvalho get minutes, for example, in the Liverpool defeat against Brentford? Foden, I think, barely got any minutes recently against Man City, came on very late when they needed a goal against Everton. And I think now there's been sort of complaints about maybe the way Arteta, used his substitutions in his bench in this game against Newcastle. Now, largely, I don't want to, what's the word? I don't want to rewrite history, guys. I was sat here, you would have seen my reaction sort of during the game when we were talking about subs, me and Laurie on the watch along, and I was saying, I kind of understand why he's happy not to make subs. The team looked like they were close to getting it right, and it looked like one of those games that would be difficult to impact from the bench. So I didn't really mind him not making changes. But if he were to do something, okay, Fabio Vieira on for Odegaard. Maybe he produces a little bit of magic. That wouldn't surprise me. He's got that quality, Fabio Vieira. But actually, I think it's what we could have done with Zinchenko and Granit Xhaka. Now, first of all, if we get everyone into their positions, we're moving forward. Now, what surprises me is against West Ham, we saw a lot of interchanging between Xhaka, Tierney. Let's bring these guys forward. We saw a lot of interchanging between Xhaka, Tierney and Martinelli. And I mentioned it. We saw Martinelli coming inside. We saw Xhaka dropping deep here. Oh, there we go. It's working now. And we saw Tierney overlapping a little bit more. I'd like to have seen that a little bit more from Arsenal. Because Martinelli was one-on-one with Trippier so often, it actually made it quite difficult for Martinelli to keep winning that battle. I mean, in fact, he wasn't really winning it. I don't think he had his best game, Martinelli. Trippier was doing very, very well in that situation. And I think it could have used for Martinelli to come a little bit central because he wasn't having his best game. Xhaka to sit and dictate along with Partey. And then Zinchenko to try and overlap and offer something different. Like he did in the goal against Wolves that, basically sealed the 3 points in the 2-0 win. And like Tierney was doing a little bit against West Ham, I think it would have been nice to see what Trippier would have done with just an up and down left-footed option to try and deliver across as well and ask him a different question. Every time Martinelli got the ball, he was facing inside, and naturally that's where Trippier probably wants to push him because he's got the centre-backs that are going to sweep up as well, whereas going on the outside might have caused some different problems. Now, could obviously a player like Kieran Tierney, where is he? Could he have come on? Sure. Who would he have come on for? This is where I think yellow carded Xhaka. I think, by the way, did very, very well on the yellow card. I'm not taking anything away from him. But I think this is where he could have maybe come off, having been on a yellow card. You move Zinchenko into midfield. You largely don't lose what he's been doing from that area of the pitch anyway, because now he's playing in Xhaka's position. And yes, he can get forward and show that invention. There are a few times he did get the ball in the penalty area, turn, look like, get a shot away, look like he might do something. He had some moments in the attacking third, Zinchenko, but largely his role doesn't change by playing in that role. Martinelli comes inside and is a little bit closer to goal. Again, he won't move. There we go. And then Tierney, who's a fantastic up and down left back, who stretches the pitch, who's got a really good delivery, could have offered us something different. Again, I don't want to go in, this isn't some great, criticism of Arteta and his use of the subs. I actually understand really why he didn't want to make too many changes and why he was happy with what was going on out on the pitch at that point. But I think that is something he potentially could have tried. Zinchenko midfield and Tierney on the overlap at left back. Okay, so my fourth point is around whether maybe nerves are starting to kick in a little bit. Now look, maybe me talking about it, isn't really the right thing to be doing because, it's so early in the season. And I think largely when you look at the performances that the Arsenal players have put in, I don't think they look nervy at all. I think you can be really happy with the way they played against Newcastle, Brighton and West Ham overall. But there is a reason why I ask a little bit about nerves kicking in. Let me show you why. In the last 15 minutes against Brighton, I thought it was probably, bar the Leeds performance, probably the most chaotic 15, 20, 30 minutes of football that we've actually seen from Arsenal all season. I think they really lost composure, from being really, really honest. Now, they got through and they showed a different kind of resilience. But, again, we're looking for Holding to come on, and see us out the last 10 minutes. We weren't doing that in other games. So I want to highlight what our last 15 minutes away at Brighton looked like compared to the last 15 minutes away against Chelsea and at home against Liverpool, because what Arsenal and Arteta have been doing really well is killing teams with possession, maintaining possession of the ball, passing it around, and just frustrating the opposition because they can't even get control of the ball, let alone have shots and actually cause us some problems and do something in the attacking third. Now, in the last 15 minutes against Brighton, we conceded 4 shots to them. They completed 117 passes to our 12. They had 42 attacking third passes to our 3, and they crossed the ball 10 times. We didn't manage a single one. If you compare that to how we did against Liverpool and Chelsea, we'll start with Chelsea away, as that was an away game. So remember, the away team is these right figures. So Chelsea, 1 shot each in the last 15 minutes at the Bridge. We completed more passes than them. We had 29 attacking third passes to their 5, and we crossed the ball 5 times to their 4. We were the better team. We still looked the aggressor in the last 15 minutes, despite being at the Bridge, despite being 1-0 up, and then really, really needing to get some sort of result. We came through that very, very controlled in the last 15 minutes. I think compared to Liverpool, no, we didn't look statistically the better team against Liverpool in this situation, but look how much closer it is. Only 2 shots to 1. So you've got to remember, guys, now it's the Liverpool figures on the right, of course, because we were the home team. So we had 1 shot to their 2. We completed 53 to their 93. They had 31 attacking third passes to our 18. And they had 6 crosses. Yes, better, but largely pretty untroubled compared to what Brighton did and quite how much dominance Brighton had on us in the last 50 minutes. With all due respect to Brighton having a fantastic season, Liverpool having a poor one, you'd expect Liverpool to be causing you more problems than Brighton, even at the Emirates Stadium. And Arsenal got through that last 15 minutes superbly. Now, that might just be evidence of the Brighton game, for example, and the way we were trying to hold on to the lead we had. But I think there's a degree of tension getting into Arsenal's performance in the Newcastle game as well. I think you saw that in the way just some of the execution was lacking on the final pass. I think things that players would normally get right, they weren't really getting right. After that kind of first half hour, 45 minutes of football went by, it felt like Arsenal maybe were attacking. It felt like Arsenal were attacking like every chance was going to be their last chance of the game, if that makes sense. And I think looking at understat, our XG of 0.96 across that whole game, according to them, or 0.97, one of them. I think 0.54 of that XG came in the first 30 to 35 minutes against Newcastle. So we really created the bulk of our XG in that first half hour, where I think we were probably more relaxed, we were playing more fluid football, we were opening it up a little bit better. And as the game went on, you just saw the quality of chance decrease and Arsenal have to work a lot harder. Of course, we had the Eddie opportunity, but largely it felt to me like Arsenal were going to get their goal in the first half more than the second half, though they did keep trying and they did very well against a very, very stubborn Newcastle defence. So again, are these little moments of nerves, tension coming through? I like to think not, but maybe that's something to explore. So you let me know in the comments what you think. And now my final point, guys, I thought my 5th and final should be ending on a real positive, because I know people might think it's a bit negative or a bit reactionary to jump on the whole tension, nervousness thing. Wanted to explore that, but on the other side, I want to explore how bloody brilliant Arsenal are, because they are. Let's have a little look at how Arsenal's performances against the top 10 teams in the Premier League rank this season. Of course, we haven't played Manchester City, who are second, but I just want to have a look at some of these numbers very, very quickly. In the Newcastle game, I've got shots, possession, XG for our results against some of the top 10 the top 10 teams in the division so far. And there's a lot of these stats that we absolutely come out on the right side of. Let's have a look, for example, at Newcastle. 17 shots to 18. 67% of the possession, slightly higher XG than them. Man United, we had more shots and more possession at their ground. Okay, they generated a better XG, but again, to go to Old Trafford and have a degree of dominance like that, even though we lost, I think we could take a lot of positives from that. Even the eye test will tell you that Arsenal were very good against Manchester United, smashing Tottenham on all these things. Liverpool, again, more shots, less possession, but a far better XG, creating a much better quality of chance against Liverpool. Against Fulham as well, much, much better. Brighton, we go to their place. Cool, we had less of the ball, but a much better XG. Not much more shots, but more shots, especially when you look at the fact that most of that came in the first hour. We were very dominant then. Against Brentford, a similar story, and again against Chelsea, 14 shots to their 5. We limited them to 5 shots at Stamford Bridge. We had more possession, and we had a better XG. Arsenal are a really good team, everyone. I think it's about time we just acknowledge them and just give them massive praise. I know we do game to game, but just to sort of look back at it all for a second as we approach the halfway stage. And I think that's one thing I learned in the Brighton Newcastle game. Difficult in different ways. Brighton will always go play some scintillating football and really cause you problems. They've been in fantastic form. Look at their record against the Big Six, for example, this season. And look at Newcastle's, who are in a different way, have been very resilient, have worked incredibly hard, have been very imposing physically as well, but Arsenal were able to keep a clean sheet and still come out probably deserving the win, certainly more than Newcastle did, though I'm sure Newcastle fans will agree that a point was probably fair enough anyway. But I think Arsenal can look at the way they've performed across all these games and be really, really proud of themselves. Arsenal are a very good side, and I think since returning from Christmas, Gabby Jesus missing, everyone was stressing about how that was going to look. Eddie's stepped up brilliantly, and Arsenal keep performing at an extremely impressive level in the Premier League. And I think Pep Guardiola's just said in his press conference, if Arsenal keep playing this way, we're not going to catch them. So keep playing this way. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Hope you've enjoyed this Tactical Insight show. Apologies, Graham couldn't be here, but those are 5 things that I think we've learnt from Arsenal's win at Brighton, draw against Newcastle, ultimately we're 8 points clear at the top still. Man City go to Chelsea, then they go to Old Trafford, then they got Spurs, I think, twice in a couple of weeks. So they've got some tricky games coming. Arsenal have picked up maybe a valuable point there and could kick on, get some signings in, go to Tottenham. Let's hope we win and we just keep charging our way to hopefully a Premier League title. We'll see, guys. Well done, Arsenal. Shame about the result, but a decent performance. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, if you like the AFTV merch, go check out the link in the description below. We'll leave it there. Many, many thanks.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.